Right, Renee. Right, I think we've got everybody connected and in the room, so we should kick this next item off. Obviously, two really critical pieces of our agenda items today before us. The first, obviously, being the adoption of our 25-35 long-term plan. So it's been 2.5 years, I guess, of work, which has been, I think, fair to say, arduous and challenging. And we're now at a point where we have to consider the adoption of the plan we've pulled together collectively. I think it's fair to say that it has been a difficult few years, which can only be characterised by uncertainty, legislative reform, unprecedented high levels of inflation, particularly in the civil construction sector, economic recession, increased cost to borrowing money, and of course, the ever-present concern of affordability for our communities. All of those issues, I guess, were really underscored or highlighted for both myself and probably Steph over the last few days in Wellington, and affirmed time and time again by other mayors up and down the country experiencing similar issues, and again reiterated and understood by Brad Olsen when I actually had a chat with him yesterday. So we're in a situation where it has to be a balancing act, meeting our immediate needs of today, but at the same time having our eyes to the future. We simply can't continue to kick cans down the road. And we are responding to decades of underinvestment in our infrastructure. And I would really ask us all to consider whose voices are in this room today. We're responsible not only to make decisions for ourselves and our communities here with us today, but also for those who will be here into the future. And this was a theme that resonated loud and clear through the last 2 days in Christchurch about the debt burden being passed on to our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren. It's not a legacy any of us should aspire to. It is, of course, difficult to make what can be viewed as unpopular decisions. And it's also really difficult to think of others into the future. Studies have shown that we're hardwired not to really think that way as a species in general terms. And it's also difficult to make decisions that will fall on some sectors or portions of our community in a manner that increases hardship. I get that. We all get that. But realistically, this is leadership. It's about planting trees under whose shade we will never sit. It shouldn't be about short-term ego or noise. It should be about long-term wins for all. So look, with that sort of scene set, I think it's only appropriate that I pass the speaking paddle, if you like, over to Kirsty in Christchurch there, but I wish also to acknowledge that presence today of our friends and partners, Renee and Kay from Audit. They are with us in the room. We have Richard Harbour, who's from the Office of the Auditor General, Sector Manager for Local Government online. Nice to see you, Richard. And of course, we have our own Bruce Robertson and Carol Billette also online. So lovely to have you all with us to discuss this critical piece of work, which has been a long time in the making and has challenged us all. And I guess just before I hand over, I think it's really important that we consider that sometimes we have to make decisions in the absence of perfect information, but nevertheless have to press on with the best information we have at the time in a landscape of total uncertainty. So over to you, Kirsty, your report.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the development of the 25-34 long-term plan and the preparation of this report has been a team effort with input from a number of staff across the organisation. I'd also like to acknowledge that there are members of the core LGP project team who played a critical role and are unwell, not able to attend today's meeting, being George, Melissa, Anthea and Lisa. I will lead the presentation of the report today with support from James and Yolanda and the wider team. The purpose of this report is for the Council to adopt the 25-34 long-term plan, as well as the remission and postponement of rates and water charges policy, the revenue and financing policy, the treasury management policy, and the development contributions policy. On Wednesday, we emailed elected members advising that there had been a formatting issue with page numbers within the long-term plan document and the council agenda, and I will provide an amended recommendation to address that when we get to that point. In addition, there have been some minor changes that have been made to the long-term plan since the agenda was issued on Tuesday, and these are in response to feedback from Audit. They are minor in nature and they fall within the ambit of the delegated authority to me that is recommended as Part H of the recommendations. These include the addition of a section of the Act to the introduction section, the inclusion of additional page references, and a correction as to a number. As you're aware, consultation on the draft long-term plan and draft policies was undertaken from the 9th of May through to the 9th of June, and we received 145 submissions with 35 submitters speaking to these submissions at the hearing on the 17th and 18th of June, and elected members deliberated on all submissions on the 19th. We have been working with our audit partners on the audit of the LTP itself since the beginning of the week. Since the week beginning the 16th of June. That timeframe has been extremely tight and it has very much required a collaborative effort from our audit and council teams. On Wednesday evening, we were advised that we had audit clearance. And Renee and Kay are in attendance today with Richard from the Office of the Auditor General online. And at this point, I'm going to invite Renee to speak to the audit opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So we've completed the audit of the LTP, as you've just heard. Between the audit of the consultation document and the LTP, there was a number of changes made. Some were material in terms of the audit for us. None of it was particularly significant, and the audit opinion remains largely the same as the one that we issued during the CD phase. So you would have seen that in the documentation that came through. I just want to mirror today what I said at the previous meeting, that this is not an opinion that is issued lightly. A lot of work has gone in, and especially during the CD phase to get to this point, and a lot of hard work and collaboration between the teams. So the LTP went an audit. It covers the full 9 years of the plan, and our audit opinion covers the full 9 years. It also underwent the OAG review, what we usually refer to as the HOT review, and it also underwent an opinion reviews committee just to formalize and approve the final opinion. That's basically my notes for today. As I said, there's not a lot that happened between the CD phase and the LTP. I would, however, hand over to Richard, who is our OAG sector manager, for a couple of comments from his side as well. Richard?
Yes, thanks, Renee, and thank you for having me today. Through you, Your Worship, just one real comment from me. I just wanted as well to acknowledge the particular challenging circumstances faced by the 12 councils who chose to defer their LTPs for a year, and the challenges for those councils in adopting their LTPs at this time, and in particular in regard to the concurrent need to resolve their future water services delivery. So those challenges are well known to you, as to the other 11 councils. And what we've seen in terms of the audit opinions issued for those 12 councils is that a total of 5 councils have attracted adverse audit opinions for similar reason relating to water services delivery as your council. So you're not alone in that. And that background and the circumstances of each council has been a little bit different in terms of their relative timings of progressing their water service delivery compared to their long-term plan decision making, but really the same fundamental underlying complexity and challenge. So look, I'll leave it there and thank you.
I appreciate that context, Richard. Really important to bear in mind as we turn these issues to the floor, if you like. So, Kirsty, will you go, or was it back to you, Renee?
Through the chair, available to respond to any questions that elected members may have, and I'll be supported with that by James and Yolanda.
Excellent. So let's just open the floor for questions of our staff here in respect to this paper. I have one from Claire. So Claire, can you take us off?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I would have liked to address this question also to Renee and Kay, but it was on the growth formulas and the processes, because I assumed that would have had further work done on it and getting to this point of adopting the LTP, and I'm not sure whether or not that was the case and whether or not any of those questions or the difference in the opinions between audit staff and council staff came closer. It'd be interesting to know if any of that was resolved in any way at all. James?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say, Councillor, that we were so far removed from the modelling scenarios that Audit used and we used that we couldn't bridge that gap. And I believe we've worked through that in detail of what the differences are and explain those. And that's been backed up further by Mr. Coots, who's detailed what's actually going on the ground. So we're very, very conscious, though, that this is something we have to work very closely with the audit team for the next year's process, subject to today being adopted.
Thanks, Claire. Claire?
I'd just like another question, but it's not really related to the audit opinion. No, it was about one of the possible funding options that we had that we considered. Is this the right time?
I think maybe we should clear away the issues around the audit just so we can deal with those by topic, if you like. Any other questions in respect of Renee's final report relating to the audit to tease out or clarify? No? No? Great. Claire, did you have another question then outside of that?
Well, yes, I was interested in when we considered the verbal submissions, you know, we heard from the Tūmuru Football Club, and there was a suggestion that a cash reserve that's connected with Anki Park might be able to be used to meet some of their requests. I just wonder whether or not any progress had been made on that to clarify if that's likely to be able to be done or not.
I believe that we've taken away an action to look exactly how we do that, and we've responded back to them the feedback. I stand corrected by Kirsty if that's not the case, but I believe that's the route we have taken, and we will keep you informed, Councillor, but we have taken away that action and gone back to them in a letter to that effect.
Yeah.
So through the chair, you'll recall that there was a resolution that was passed by council as part of the deliberations whereby that was to be looked at and considered whether that could be addressed through a further process. So yeah, that is underway, Councillor St Pierre. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Any other questions from anybody in respect to this? The paper, obviously, we have those resolutions that appear between pages 59 and 67. I'm sure there are. Roger.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to state that at this point, I will be voting in favour of the motion, but my opinion, as I expressed when we last discussed the long-term plan over the proposed 15.5% rates increase, I would still vote against that, but I recognise that in terms of the procedure of having to adopt a long-term plan and set the rates now, rather than putting a further financial imposition on the ratepayers by a delayed clawback of any increase. So I think, but I'd also like to comment at this point that when we last discussed the rates, I made a request, supported, I believe, by Claire, for the provision of the full-time staffing numbers of council for the last 10 years, so we could see the trend of the increase in staffing of this Waipa District Council, which to my mind is a concern. But I have to say that I am very disappointed that we have still not received that information. So in fact, I'm being asked to make a decision on this long-term plan without having the full information I've requested to feel comfortable. So I just want to register that, and I'll still be making attempts to obtain that information going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Before James answers that, I just want to thank you for looking at this in its totality and appreciating your very clear discomfort when we went out, and the fact that you and Philip both opposed that 15.5, but that you've have the capacity and the wherewithal to take this decision in its totality. So I just want to acknowledge that, Roger. I was going to go to James, or yeah. So you're in support of Roger's point of view.
And just his first statement is that, it's been minuted. So, the decision of that meeting that we made on the year one has been minuted.
Yeah, totally acknowledge that and respect your decision to oppose that. And then again, Roger's view now in terms of looking at it in totality. Totally agree with that. So
comes to me the FT, if you want to.
Did you want to say the FT, or James wanted to chuck his hand up and just add something there?
Yeah,
James, and then Steph, if we need to.
just you, Madam Chair. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'll own that, because I totally acknowledge Councillor Gordon's request and that we've been trying to reconcile the information systems we've got inside to be able to provide that information. And I'll continue to try and provide that information as discussed with Councillor Gordon offline. And it goes to the point of us having to invest in enabling business systems so that we can hold, attract, retain and extract meaningful information for elected members about our business in a much more timely way. So I acknowledge Councillor Gordon's comment.
Okay, Lou.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chair. I feel very strongly here that we've got to accept that we're in a situation that we did not create. And that to me is an essential part of where we're at the moment. The thing is that, as Richard stated, we're one of 5 councils that are facing the same situation, that we actually suspended our long-term plan and put in an annual plan. Okay, which is something that probably in retrospect we should have reviewed. Yeah, oh, sorry, I lost my thought there for a minute. What everybody's got to also consider is that we've got 2 tier 1 councils bounding on each other, with Hamilton right against our boundary, which actually precipitates a lot of the problems that we've got, particularly in that area anyway. I'm going to ask one question, and it's a little left field, and I will say that, but I noted that the Minister for Local Government yesterday announced rate capping, and whether that's going to impact us as a general coher or a general council and how it will impact is something that perhaps we don't know at the moment, but it could cause major problems at a later date. So I just wanted to know whether there's any consideration of that or any thought with that.
Steph.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lou. There was much discussion about it at the conference. There was discussion about it at the LGNZ AGM. LGNZ have committed to continue to work to understand that proposal and to work with the government to understand it further. And we've also committed to bring you a paper in due course to start that discussion and debate around our chamber so that you can understand it as best as possible. It's still nascent. There doesn't appear to be even agreement in the government about it. They're looking to Australian models for best practice. We still don't quite know what that all looks like yet, but we'll definitely keep you informed.
Thank you very much. I just felt that it's something that we need to actually individually talk to our local MPs and as elected people, because I think this is something that needs much more consideration.
Yeah, look, until we know what it looks like, it's sort of premature to, but it's definitely a hot topic that we need to, once the legislation is even drafted, turn our minds to and understand the impact of, for sure. So I have online and then Mike. So whether it's Marcus or Dalmarie, I can't tell, but the floor is yours.
Tēnā tātou i te whare, and on the back of supporting the Mayor, I think it's really deceitful of us to be thinking about capping rates. And that was a really strong corridor that came out down here. And what also came out was, again, the lack of 40 years of infrastructure. I am not prepared to leave our mokopuna struggling in this space anymore. And before this gets becoming a blimmin' politicking thing across our table, kia kaha koutou.
Kia ora, Dalmarie, thank you for that. Yeah, very much a theme, I think, of the conference. Obviously, the rates capping paper was discussed and debated both inside the AGM and outside, and definitely alluded to by the Minister. Yeah, so yeah, we invite that and look forward to seeing what that will look like. Mike.
Yeah, thank you, through the Mayor. Just with regard to a couple of comments. One is, hey, thank you very much for the 145 submissions, those people that did submit, and the 34 odd that actually turned up. So thank you for that, because that's sort of exercising, I guess, a democratic process. Look, you get feedback that, you know, and I've had it over the week, that you give a submission, it's not listened to, why bother? But they are listened to. We all attest to, we listen to them. And it's just trying to make the best decisions for the community, for the district, with the information, with the money, with the resources, and with what's in front of you and what you've got. So, yeah, I sort of I push back that we don't listen, because we do. Do you get what you want? Maybe not, but that's, I guess, why we sit around this table and make the choices, and that's what elections are for. Hey, the next thing is just when I look at these graphs of the feedback that's from those 145 odd submissions, and you sort of look for, in education looks sort of for a bell curve, and you sort of always want the bell curve to sort of be more to the right, of course, but I've just picked up a couple of things here that maybe we should focus on, where some of that neither agree or disagree, and that sort of shows to me that it could be interpreted as a lack of understanding by the community. They don't disagree or agree because they just don't really understand it, or maybe it doesn't affect them. And one of them was the development contribution policy, which I know maybe the government's looking at also. And the other one, and I sort of don't blame people, is around the draft funding and financing policy. Probably excites James, but other people it doesn't. But maybe there's a couple of things that we can comment out to our community of exactly what those sort of things are and the influences that they have on the progress of the district, but also just individuals within it. So those are the two that stood out to me.
Yeah, great points. Really well made, Mike. Really well made. Thank you. Any other questions or a debate in respect of this? Claire.
Sorry about that. I do have a question, and then I'd just like to make some comments on some of the other things. But the question relates to the rating resolution on page 62, and it's related to the sewerage scheme at Hamilton Airport. Okay, so that's sewerage charges. It mentions in the second paragraph, connected means any rating unit that is connected to the Cambridge Hamilton Airport or Te Muri sewage schemes. Serviceable means it's actually within 30 metres of it, okay? And so you can either be connected, and if you're not connected or not serviceable, you're not liable for this rate. So my understanding is there isn't a sewage scheme at Hamilton Airport, that it is a tank system that gets pumped out. Is this accurate? Is it correct? Are we creating a situation where you've got people at the Hamilton Airport that think, oh, I don't have to pay anything for this? Yeah, I just want to clarify that. Thanks.
I think it's still, there is a scheme. I think EL's going to come and explain this in detail for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Through the chair, thank you for your question. And yes, you are correct. Currently, the sewage scheme is tanked, and that's what that target rate is paying for. There was a business case around that, and then the future development into the network will occur in future years.
Thanks, because when I think of sewage schemes, I don't actually think of tanks. Yeah, but that's really helpful to clarify that. Yeah, and then I just wanted to make some comments, about the situation we're in, where we're approving this long-term plan that does have really challenging rates rises, and I've appreciated also hearing from the community. I don't share the view that it's been an unavoidable situation, and that during the preparation of this LTP and previous LTPs, I've called for better funding tools, better financial controls and things like that, which haven't been able to be enacted. I'm a bit frustrated actually with Minister Bishop for criticising councils and putting us in the firing line when I actually hold central government to account for denying us fit for purpose tools, okay? I've been asking for growth debt metrics that reflect the reality that we should be able to take account of development contributions that we receive. That would get us out of the stranglehold of our debt limit at the moment, actually, pretty easily. We haven't been able to get that. I've asked for revenue bonds, which means the debt isn't even on the council's books. And, I think we could also be having a lot closer control over our growth debt, which I have mentioned. Yeah, so I accept that we're in this situation. I'm prepared to support this LTP at the moment, but I'm certainly on a mission to get better financial control and more tools, hopefully with central government's, cooperation and speedy resolution. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Look, I think we all share your frustration in terms of the limited funding and financing tools available to us. This has been a kōrero that has resonated for decades, right? And regrettably, we're in a position now, I guess, where investment in infrastructure through the waves of sort of 1910 to 30, then 1950 to 80 or so, we're sitting now in this echo of end of life of investment of those pieces of infrastructure, and the failure over those decades between now and then to address them and fund them appropriately. We're at a point where we're having to basically face the music. So, and in the absence of any other means of actually sensibly raising or more fairly raising that funding, we have only that crude measure of a land tax, basically, as many people will tell you. Look, can I just have one response, however, Claire, to Claire's question around revenue bonds? Acknowledging, Claire, this is something that you have raised regularly. James, are you able to give us any response to the appropriateness or lack thereof? Or I know that we are looking at doing some work. I recall there being a discussion had around that. So can I invite you perhaps to answer or address that point alone in respect from Claire?
So we are talking, can I just ask you to rephrase the question? Are we talking about the DC collection process and how we monitor that effectively, or?
Specifically the revenue bonds claim. I know that we had talked about investigating alternative funding streams as a in an informal capacity around the table, and I'd understood that there was an intention to do some work in that space. But I know that Claire has a real warmth to revenue bonds, and I'm just curious to understand, because I know previous advice was that it wasn't considered an appropriate option for us. So I'm just conscious that that request from Claire now be addressed in this forum, if you're able to. If you're not, I can.
I mean, we are going to, once we've finished the LTP and we move forward, we are looking at how we implement financial controls and look at different revenue streams. My understanding on the revenue bonds in particular is the cost of financing actually is quite expensive when you compare it to LGFA funding, which we get obviously very cheap. So I believe it's been looked at. And to your point, Claire, is we would still be left with some kind of cost of capital around that financing, right? So I mean, it's just it's looking at it commercially and make sure it makes sense. But I understand it has been looked at and it was deemed to be quite expensive to fund.
So we looked at the special financing vehicle, which ended up costing about $800,000 to set it up, and then the interest rate was looked at an average of 8%. When we can source the funding from the, well, at the time it was probably 3.5 or 4.5. Yeah, so not cost effective, even though this was one of the things that was touted by central government advisors. This is going to be your saviour. I mean, if they're going to give us new tools, they have to be fit for purpose tools that are actually really cost effective. Yeah, I do contest whether or not a special purpose vehicle is in fact a revenue bond. If 2/3 of US infrastructure is funded this way, I'm sure it's very cost effective, but I'm not going to enter into the details of the debate at this point in time. But I appreciate that there's some investigation underway on it. So at least I'm pleased with that. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Claire. Yes.
James.
James?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit here and preach from a soapbox, but if we think about this logically, unless it's government backed, any type of vehicle that involves the private sector means involving pricing risk and pricing commercial return, right? So it is going to cost more than what we could ever get from LGFA in terms of funding, because LGFA is not for profit, right? So if you take that as the fundamental principle, if you go any commercial route, it will cost you more. It's why we don't borrow from the banks.
Did you just want to respond to that and then Lou?
Well, just endorsing what James has said about the importance of government backing. I think that's critical. Thank you, because that has been denied.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Claire. Lou, did you want to?
Well, I was going to totally concur with what James just said. Any private, investor is looking for a return, would have insurance and have a risk factor quantified in that. So it would cost quite a lot more money to actually raise that money and service it. The second thing I think is underlying here for absolutely generations, we have got a broken financial system. Ratepayers alone are not the only beneficiaries of everything we do here. Central government has a role in what we do, but it has exacerbated that and stood aside. We're one of the few countries in the world that has a tax take that does not relate back to local government. Most other countries give local government a proportion of the total tax take to assess in a system to produce what they have to produce. We have over and over again in this society where we have central government policies implemented without funding, over and over again. Now, and the one last thing I'd like to say is, with the annual general, its long-term plan, I want to personally get up and say one thing. I totally concur with your speech, Mayor Susan, your introduction. I think that hits the right points at the right times. We have been in a very difficult time. We did not create this, and I think the public know, like all of us, 15% is, in rate increase is not great. I agree with that. But we did not create that. So what I'm saying is, although it is a very difficult thing, I'm going to actually move this in that we need to accept that we have to move forward and be positive for our future generations, just remembering that if we don't do this, we're going to be in a situation where we're just increasing debt, which we don't have. Thank you, Kate.
Kia ora, Lou. Thank you so much for that. Just to your point around sort of total tax take numbers here, we are the lowest in the OECD in terms of our cut as a sector. Central government attracts 93% of the nation's tax take, and we get a princely sum of about 7%. Obviously, you do the math, and you know that the quantum and the size of the infrastructure that we have to manage and maintain on behalf of our communities with that paltry 7%. So yeah, we're all in vicious agreement, I think, here around the failure of our current funding and financing tools, and that is not a new issue. And also just wanted to remind us that we did have some really thorough workshops around and entertained whether special purpose vehicles were of any use to us in Waipa in this current context with the projects that we had ahead of us, and we all agreed that it was not of any use. But yeah, to your point, Claire, it's not really an alternative funding way, it's just another way of moving the deck chairs around a little bit, isn't it? So look, thanks, Lou. Other quick comments? Roger.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Susan. And I suppose this is more a point of clarification or my understanding is that with the impending Three Waters, with the current discussion that's going on in central government, etc., with all of these rates modellings that they're doing, my understanding is that next year we are going to be required to do a revision to our LTP that will cause us to reconsider years 2 to 9 of this existing 10-year plan. So we're going to go through this whole process again next year, which I'm hoping that the ratepayers will see some value, that they'll have another voice. But my question is, if we go out with a revised LTP, is the requirement that we need to go through a further session of consultation for the adoption of that revised LTP?
Great questions, Roger. And Kirsty will answer that for us, if you don't mind, Kirsty.
Through the chair, my understanding is that we are required to go through. Now I'm doubting if we're not required.
Thank you, Kirsty. That gives me some comfort. Thank you.
Can I just clarify that? Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Required to be audited. If it's just waters change, we are required to be audited, but we don't have to reconsult. If we were to make further changes to the LTP that were beyond the waters removal, then that would be another consideration. Is that clear? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Kirsty. You cut out there, but the sound system was clear at the start, but it's a bit broken now.
Thank you.
Yeah, great clarification. Mike.
Thank you through the chair. It's a side issue to us. It's on page 69, and it's just around changes to development contribution policy. And I've been thinking about this as I've been walking up the hill. And it's a comment made by Tony around the policy change. So what I'm asking for is, hey, can we just have this policy just thrown back at us, just to have a little look at around the kitchenette/kitchen, not just kitchen where relevant. And the argument was that, hey, even a kitchenette is a sink, still produces water, there's a cost to it, which I totally agree, but there's not a cost to it if you're on septic tanks. So I just want to make sure we've actually got that right in our policy. I totally understand if you're in town, you're connected up to services, et cetera, but if you're a rural residential, or if you're on septic, there is no cost, so there should be no change to that part of the policy. Yeah, so it's not really here and there, it's more just, hey, let's just make sure we've got it right.
James, you're squinting there.
I'm just trying to rack my brains around it, because I would have thought if you're on septic, you've got no infrastructure, therefore there's no investment, therefore there's no DCs, so that wouldn't apply, right?
We might invite Wayne
to answer your question.
Give us
I think I've just answered the question. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, look, I think we'll have a look at that one again, but there would have been good rationale associated with the change associated with making a clearer definition for the change. But yeah, let's have another look at it. I think, yeah, look, I don't have any sort of more further comment on that, James. Yeah.
I think I've just answered the question for him. Sorry, Mr. Wayne, because I had my microphone off. So
Yeah, no,
I think you're
actually,
comfortable
Wayne,
with the response.
I think you're spot on. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions about this LTP and the paper before us? Before I invite us to turn our minds to the look, Andrew, did you want to say before I asked perhaps Bruce to give us a high-level comment and observation from his position as independent chair of Audit and Risk? But Andrew?
Yeah, thanks. Look, I just wanted to acknowledge that this is probably, well, of the 4 LTPs I've been involved in, this has been by far the most difficult. I want to assure Renee and Kay that we appreciate the seriousness with which you do your work, and that we take very seriously the opinion that you have given to us. I want to also acknowledge the staff who have worked tirelessly to get to the point where we are now. And no one around this table is happy that we are sitting on a 15% rate rise. And yeah, it's easy to go back and say, oh, it's because we haven't. But you don't fund before you need to spend the money. So, I mean, I guess it's just we're here largely because we got caught in a really vicious inflation event for a couple of years there that saw our projects, some of them go 50% more than what they've been costed for in previous LTPs. And it's just what it is. We can't stop doing stuff. Yeah, I guess that's it. I just, again, thanks to staff for, all of the work that they've done.
Thank you, Andrew. Bruce, can I invite you to share your thinking before I have a quick whip round the table before we put the issue to a vote?
Thank you, Susan, and greetings to everybody. As always, I'd rather be in the room with you, so my apologies that I couldn't. I had to choose between 2 council meetings today, including one this afternoon, so I'm sorry that I had to opt to be elsewhere. Susan, look, this has been a difficult process. I think in your opening comments, you said 2.5 years. So look, I just want to acknowledge Kirsty and her team. They have carried for all of us the weight of a very difficult LTP. And I think, Andrew, as you've said, and I would agree, this is probably the toughest one that you've actually done. I would reflect that also we've had a change of chief executive and CFO in that time as well. And that has doubled the difficulty of dealing with this. So all credit, to use a good sporting analogy, to Kirsty and the team, and indeed everybody now sitting around the table that's been involved, because the issues, Susan, that you've had to face for this triennium have been substantial. And I think I'd like to address, if I could, the issue of the audit opinion, because it leaves us with a challenge. I'm very conscious that Renee and her team, Richard and the OAG, needed to, and they have, reported appropriately in line with generally accepted accounting practice. I've long debated with them, not the application of GAAP, but the challenges that we face in giving an LTP that has any real sense of longevity over these 9 years. But I think the issue that we should acknowledge as we adopt this LTP, and I think we should, by the way, and the attendant documents, and also ultimately receive the adverse opinion, is to reflect that in talking with Renee last night, she said this is a hard opinion, Bruce, and I have previously said in front of you, yes, it is. And that's actually because of the growth numbers, which we have not been able to convince an external party are reasonable. And their opinion is hard because they're saying, actually, to the reader, be careful in relying on this document. That's a hard opinion. Now, Richard, thank you that you've said there's 4 other ones with similar issues, but I just want to reflect, we have to live with this LTP and indeed with an adverse opinion. And I'm just trying to reflect as I prepared my comments, what does that mean for us as a council? And it strikes me that actually it says they are pointing us towards what is the significant financial or fiscal risk we face as a council. Perhaps I'm setting out the groundwork for what both the Finance Committee and the Audit and Risk Committee have to focus on in the coming 2 to 3 years, which is actually, will we achieve the growth? How do we match the investment required? And what is the risk around actually mismatching revenue flows through DCs with our planned capital program? And I say that regardless of whether it's been undertaken by us or by Waikato Waters, I think we're calling it, aren't we? In other words, the Water Seas WSO. So I think this is really what the opinion ultimately is signalling as what we need to do to live with this LTP. We are going to have to monitor the performance not only of our ability to deliver CapEx, but actually the timing of that in relationship to growth going forward. Susan, it's a bit of a lecture, but I think I wanted to address and give respect to the opinion that Renee is giving to us. We need to accept it, but we also need to think about the implications that go with it. Our challenge is now, how do we just get on with business? But not dismiss the opinion, which is my point, that we need to monitor growth, development contributions and capital programs so that we don't get our timing out of a line and impose extra cost on ourselves. So look, thanks. Those are my core thoughts. You've done well to get here. And as I say, credit to the team that have got you there. And certainly as your chair of risk and assurance, I would also agree, I think with your motion, Lou, I think you moved it, that actually you moved to adopt this LTP, recognising the consequences in the opinion of Renee as our auditor. Thank you.
Yeah, look, thank you, Bruce. And I think, Andrew opened the door, I suppose, to that kōrero in terms of acknowledging how, how salutary, I guess, an opinion like this is for us, and how it does crystallise our thinking going forward in terms of those, particularly those 3 moving parts, your CapEx, your growth and your DC recovery. So really look forward to seeing how we respond as an organisation to be better in those spaces and to monitor them in a meaningful way that enables us to make really good strategic long-term decisions for our communities. So look, before I address the actual seconding of this motion, I'm going to invite the members who haven't spoken to share their gems of wisdom. It's pretty clear the ones who have sort of declared their hand, so to speak. But I think given the gravity of this plan and its size of importance for us, it would be remiss of us not to understand the others around the table's views. So I'm going to go to the right here. Bruce, you're the first cab off the rank on that space. What's your thinking?
No, I'm happy. Well, I'm not happy, but I'm happy with it. And it was only just recently that I've had to defend the rates rise but then I threw it back at this person, which is a rural person. And I said, well, I haven't seen you submit. What's your concern? I said, and plus I said, I'm standing down, you'd better stand. They all run for cover. So I had no troubles defending that rate rise from a rural perspective. And that's, I suppose in the time I've been here, there's only 5 rural people that ever complained. So that's where I represent the rural community, but they just get on with it. So it's easy to justify that it's a business. We'll get a few tough years, we'll get over it and we'll come right. Except you can't balance it over the 9-year period. It'd be nice to balance it, but you've still got to pay your bills now. So, yeah, no, I'm happy with where we are.
Cheers, Bruce. Thanks for that. I love the way you invite people to put their hat in the ring. It's always an interesting conversation to have, right? Excellent. Liz,
Yeah, thank you.
give us your thoughts.
Look, I think for many of our ratepayers, now that they're starting to see the size of the increase and perhaps comparing it with their neighbours, they probably don't understand how or why. And I guess for me, I wanted to probably try and help explain that. But when we look over the last, let's say the 12 years that I've been on council, we've delivered some really large projects. And when I think about the new pool, the new library, a lot of infrastructural changes, a lot of them are core projects that our community has expected us to do. And with that comes borrowing. And with that, we've been caught in this interest rate situation. So I probably invite our ratepayers to look at the projects we have done and understand that it is the interest that of those rates that have increased drastically over the last couple of years that have really brought us to this situation. So we've done some great things, some really great things. And I think about the Cambridge pool, the $24 million. I mean, that's a huge cost. And it is intergenerational. So although this might be a big spike right now, let's think about the longevity of that project and the benefits that it will bring to, for many, many years. I'd like to acknowledge both Claire and Roger's points. Look, I think Claire's raised this, around our table, the bonds many times, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I think she is too, that kind of hasn't been taken up in those the exploration around that perhaps could have been acted on sooner. Roger, yep, absolutely. I heard you, and in fact, I think I've also supported you in terms of requesting that line-by-line operational budgets much earlier so that we felt confident. But I appreciate it's not a governance, but at the same time, I think that we probably in this unusual situation would have appreciated some sort of more certainty around those budgets. Look, in summary, and I really bring it back down to this, and I raised it last time, our reluctance as governors to reduce our levels of service, that is, for me, it boils down to that. We as a district have always maintained some minimum standards, how our district looks, how our ratepayers want us to govern, which is to a high standard. I've always felt that our pride and how our town looks and feels and making sure that all of our infrastructure is up to a really high standard. That is what our ratepayers have expected of me. I know that. So it is hopefully a short-term situation, but at the moment I'm happy with it. As when I say happy, like everyone here, happy but unhappy. But I think also we could maybe break it down and communicate a little bit better about how we ended up here, about just talking about some of the things that I've spoken about. Thanks.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, look, it is critical to remember the longevity of some of these projects, right? And that's the fairness, I guess, of borrowing. You do strike that balance of intergenerational fairness and footing bills rather than dumping it all on one generation at any given time. I love the word why we're using happy but not happy, but thanks. Yeah. Mike, we've heard from you. Philip, did you want to share your gems of wisdom with us? No, you're okay. Okay, I'm going to go online then and invite our colleagues in Christchurch first to kick me off. You two do paper, scissors, rock to work out who's going to go first and sharing your thinking with us.
Yeah, nothing new to add really. It's just, it's a situation that we find ourselves in. It's going to be interesting when we decide on orders and how that affects us in the future. Yeah, but it's a hard pill to swallow.
Just carry on with the sentiments that this isn't a place that we want to be. And as somebody who represents the community voices of Māori, and I've listened to all our peers talk about rising rates and stuff, but you know, I've had lots of constituents come at me and remind me of some of the campaigning that was done around the Three Waters, and I've had to go back and say to them, yep, we all need to vote better next year. So let's get on with it.
Kia ora, thank you, Delmarie and Marcus. Monty, share your pearls of wisdom.
And can you hear me all right, Susan?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Okay, look, unsurprisingly, I believe that the LTP in its current form is the way to go, and I fully support it. The one thing I would just like to add is that I want to pick up on Bruce's comments around what the adverse audit opinion means for going forwards, and say that I 100% agree with that. And I have spoken to James enough, our CFO, to know that he 100% agrees with this as well. So probably more than ever, this LTP feels like a live document for me that, you know, there are a lot of moving parts that are going to continue to interact over the next year or two. So yeah, this is the start really of rather than the finish. So that's me. I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Good to hear from you and your point of view. And yes, you're right, not altogether surprising in terms of support for it. Look, are there any other comments or questions from these people before I second the motion? Oh, Wayne, you're waving your glasses around.
Thank you. Just coming back on that question about development contributions and kitchenette definition. So I just want to make it clear that in relation to that, if you're in the rural zone, you don't have a charge for water and wastewater, so they do not apply in any effect. And there is provisions if you're in the residential zones in particular for sleep outs. There are no charges for sleep outs under a particular site area, so site size. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thanks for clarification. Okay, so look, I have, Lou has moved the recommendations as they appear A to J, but I have just a small change to make in terms of some of the page numbering. Can you share? I think we're going to put it on the screen. Nothing significant, it's just some of the page numbering and reflected in a couple of the paragraphs. You'll see on paragraph C, it relates to the revenue and financing policy. It was page 195, it's now 196, and it was, the second bit was 217, it's now to 218. The next paragraph down in respect to the Treasury Management Policy cited, again, page numbering that is just changed by one page, going from 218 to 219. Are they the only two? Yep, okay, so nothing absolutely earth-shattering there, but just a slight change in page numbers. So thanks for sharing that, Jo. Can we go back? I understand we need to have everybody on screen. So Lou, I assume you're happy to move that pursuant to those small changes, and I'm going to, as Mayor, second that, and I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Excellent. Great, good stuff.
Thank you very much, councillors.
Yeah, look, once again, our biggest thanks. James has just collapsed at the end of the table. Look, our huge thanks to everybody involved from our communities who came and shared their views, to Audit who shared theirs with us, and the many hours obviously that you've worked with our teams who have worked literally day and night for an awfully long amount of time. Thank you, and thank you again. So that piece is done. For now, as Monty's words, it was just really a beginning. But look, I think, Steph, did you want to say a few words?
I quickly just want to say thank you. It's been said around the table Thank you to the elected members. You've been on this journey for this entire time as well, and I think Andrew expressed it really well. I'd like to acknowledge our audit partners in the room, Renee, Kay and Richard. Thanks for being with us today, and the journey, and as we've said, putting the relationship at the heart of what we do, being able to have the hard conversations, but still maintain the partnership with a collaborative approach. I'd like to acknowledge Jo Davies-Colley, the chair of the community board, who has been a very, very diligent and active member of all of these conversations and watching this with a close eye and taking her leadership role very seriously. So Jo, I just want to acknowledge you. Mayor Susan, for your leadership as the co-sponsor of this project. It hasn't been easy for you. It never is for a mayor who has to manage and lead the operational aspect of the project and see the toll it's taking and the orchestration it requires in the organisation, while you meet the expectations of your colleagues and peers around this table and bear the brunt of the expectation of the community. So I'd like to acknowledge your sponsorship of the project and that it hasn't been easy. And to the staff, to all of the staff, to Kirsty, James and George for their recent leadership. And there are a number of tier threes, including Yolanda, who's sitting at this table, Melissa, Anthea, Lisa. There'll be others, Joe, Rowan here in the comms team, governance. There's been a whole range of tier threes who have worked tirelessly. It's been acknowledged, but I would like to acknowledge it. And actually the whole of the exec team. If we counted the hours we've spent on this as an exec team, it'd be extraordinary. So I would just like to acknowledge all the members of the exec team and their work to get us here. I think we start on Monday with the LTP amendment for next year, Roger. So this is the beginning, as Monty said, not the end. But I think we should all take a moment just to recognise this milestone today. And I would like to thank you all. Kia ora koutou.
Thank you. Thank you, Steph. I think we're only 5 minutes over time. So let's us break now for lunch and we can return at, say, 12:50. Thank you. Right, I'll just call this meeting to order, if I may. Again, lots of discussion in the room, chitty chatties, but let's focus our minds, please, back to our agenda. Page 519 on our diligent. Obviously, the second of two very significant papers before us today. I don't propose to open up with any great words of wisdom other than to say that it's been a great privilege, I think, as a council to be part of this work at this time in New Zealand's local government history, and really proud to have been surrounded by people who were prepared to be open-minded in their thinking. So without any further ado, I will hand over to Carl and Sharon. It is your paper to bring to us, and we will receive it with thanks. So the floor is yours, Sharon.
Thank you. So this afternoon we're here to, this report is to enable the deliberations on the submissions that we received for Waikato Water's Done Well, and for council to approve this option as their preferred model for the future delivery. In February, after consideration of options, we considered a standalone CCO for Waipa, a sub-regional CCO, which included Waikato, Hamilton and Waipa, and Waikato Water Done Well. At the February meeting, council approved the Waikato Water Done Well model as their preferred option for consultation. We did consultation with the community from the 9th of May to the 9th of June, and that was done under the Preliminary Arrangements Act. During that consultation, we received 108 submissions, including 7 that were presented at the hearings, which were held on the 2nd of May. The consultation was done in parallel with the LTP consultation. 20 engagement sessions were held across the district, including 15 in-person events, 5 webinars and an open day at the Parallel Road water treatment plant, which saw over 100 people attend that site, so that was very successful. The overall campaign achieved high engagement and reach, reflecting meaningful community interest and participation. In the consultation document, we asked the 2 questions. Do you agree with our preferred option, being Waikato Water Done Well? And do you have any feedback you'd like to share on the Waikato Water Done Well model? Of the 108 submissions received, 25 were in support of the preferred option, 56 disagreed, and 27 either didn't respond or neither agreed or disagreed. The key themes that came from the submission were mana-whenua involvements and consultation, concerns around cost, expense, affordability, concerns around loss of voice, community control, keep water services in-house for take a Waipa-only CCO approach or a standalone or a trust, supportive of the Waikato Water Done Well model, support for one regional model, being the Hamilton HCC model, the viability of Waikato Water Done Well if councils pull out, that was a concern raised, cross-subsidisation, CCO accountability to customers, shareholder representative forum and how it'll work, concern around the level of borrowing, and concern the CCO might be sold off in the future. Through the hearings process, we also had additional questions asked. So in the body of the report, you'll see that we've put those questions in there and we've provided some staff comments on those. So for the reasons set out in the staff comments throughout this report, our staff recommendation are that no amendments are made to council's preferred option for the future deliveries of water services, and that we should proceed with Waikato Water Done Well as that option. So that's a summary of the paper before you, and just happy to take any questions in regards to the staff comments throughout the report.
Thanks, Sharon. Claire.
Thanks, Your Worship. Really appreciated the structure of the report and the way that you've, I think, gone the extra mile to allay people's concerns and respond to the things that were raised. I was interested, you mentioned that there had been changes made. Actually, I think that might be the next item. Yeah, okay, no, sorry. That's, yeah, it was to do with the changes to the drinking water plan, I think. I was, so, yeah.
So water service delivery
Yep,
plan.
yep,
Excellent. Okay. Thanks, Claire. Roger, did you have your hand up there?
So, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I really want to acknowledge those people that did put in submissions and a lot of the comments that came through. There were a number of people that actually commented against our preferred option, but I was really surprised that they commented against our preferred option, but quite a number of them didn't tell us what their alternative would be, which would have been useful information for us. I also think that, you know, when we considered our decision, we had a wider range of options that we considered to come down to that. And yet, in many instances, some of the detail of that wider decision-making structure that we went through weren't available to the ratepayers in putting in the submissions, which perhaps in some cases they didn't have the information on which to understand why we had made the decision that we had made to go with Waikato Waters. Well done. So I just, I felt it was really good reading those submissions, but as I say, I'm a little bit concerned that there wasn't that further information on which we had to make our decision on.
So thank you. I can just respond to that. So on the website that we had set up for Local Water Done Well, all the links for the workshops and those previous reports where you made your decisions were on that for people to access and to read, including the report done by Becca and Martin Jenkins on the sustainability and viability assessment.
But just responding to that, I doubt if people would have gone and read all those particular documents on the website. I don't think we can expect them to do the same kind of reading that we do.
And I suppose our consultation document was based under what we needed to do under the PAA Act, not under the full local government legislation.
I still believe that, and I was quite detailed in what my decision was based on in that paper that I put in, and I still believe in that. So.
Claire, did you want to add to that issue?
Yeah, now that, no, but I did have a question related to this item. I had the other one first in my mind, that's all. You know, it's really around, I suppose, the concerns that we're hearing from the community. There's a massive change. It's so pivotal, you know, for us at this time. And there was a call at the hearings that we should ensure that, you know, the ball isn't dropped as we move over to the new system in terms of performance and service delivery. Yeah. And so it'd be really helpful. And I'm pretty sure I raised it at the workshop as well. Yeah, I think it'd be quite helpful if staff could give us a picture of what metrics they think they will be using to give specific assurance that water service delivery, the resolution of queries and the performance of the networks, that kind of thing, is going to be maintained, and so that, you know, we can measure how it's tracking. That's all. Yeah, it'd be good if that could be sort of put on the table so that people can see that these, you know, we're taking accountability seriously, and yeah, we want to make sure that there's good reporting on those key things that our community says this is really important to us in terms of our water services. Yeah, thanks.
I think EL, you're happy to answer that?
I'm used to a fixed mic rather than a moving one, so that's all good. So through the chair, absolutely the focus of continuing to meet our levels of services that we've promised our community through the the LTP, a long-term plan, and also our annual plans. We also have the reporting measures that we're required to report through in terms of the key performance measures. And so our focus will be ensuring that, so my focus in particular through the direction of Chief Executive is to ensure we continue to do that and continue reporting that through to our council committees.
Mike?
Thanks through the Mayor. Just a couple of comments on it. I'm also in support of Waikato Water's done well. But just a little thing that I guess we just need to be cognizant of, particularly when the governance groups are set up, is, if we had looked at the sub-regional model with Waikato and Hamilton City, that southern sub-regional wastewater treatment plant would have been quite easy to deal with. It would have been in our rohi, in our area. Yeah, so that's just something, because it's going to be cross-border and cross-beneficial, that I guess we just need to make sure that it's not slowed down in any way, shape or form because of the two entities are trying to work together. So it's just something to look at, which I'm sure they will, but as a board here, as a council here, we just need to make sure we're over it too.
Yeah, did you want a response to that? And I'll come to you, Andrew.
Did you want to respond?
Oh, and yes, so I'll just quickly respond just to that in relation to the information staff have completed through the chair. So taking on board the information and the implications on the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant that you've just indicated, Councillor Pettit, it is something that was recognised through council as a feedback point to ensure that investment is prioritised, and therefore there has been a subsequent, in the next paper, you'll see how that's been included in the delivery plan to ensure that that is identified as a priority investment for this council. Andrew?
Thanks, Susan. Yeah. So first of all, the submissions. And, I take your point about the concerns expressed by people. The submissions were very varied. Some of them were like one word, and others were very well considered with lots of, don't forget this and look at that and really some sensible stuff. I guess my take on it all is that there was nothing brought out in those submissions that had not been considered in our work and investigations into the whole thing, which I thought was really good. A couple of areas possibly, maybe we'll do a little bit more because of, so they're certainly not a waste of time. I'm not trying to say that at all. Quite the opposite, really. But it is good to know that the work we've done has been very thorough. And, as probably you all know around here, that this is the third go we've had at doing this kind of thing or something like this. And I'm very much in favour, don't get me wrong, of our local water's done well, but I don't necessarily think this was our best option, but it's the best we have available to us now. And I think we've really got to take that on board. So I'm not going to delve back into history and rant and rave about what could have been. We'll just let that go. But yeah, so that's I guess my comments.
Cheers, Andrew. Any other question? I just want to also note that Councillor Monty has finally gone to bed. He was knackered, so he's not online with us any longer, but he invited me to share his support or share his support for this recommendation with you all. Obviously, no possibility of proxy. We looked into that, but he just wanted to let you know that that was his position on this, which would be no surprise to, I think, us all. Lou?
Just wanted to register, although I did not attend the submissions meeting. I have watched it online, so I am aware, but I'll sit to one side a little bit just to listen to the conversation. But I wanted to make it registered I had on the homework. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora, Lou, thank you. Any other questions of either Sharon or Carl or EL in respect of this paper? I mean, we've been canvassing this for some time, and some of us longer than others in various iterations and in different lives, of course. Look, there's sort of so much to say, but I think it's all been said. So I guess any other questions first before I do a quick whip around the room before we turn our mind to the recommendations? No? We're all pretty exhausted from talking water, isn't it? We're all a bit washed out. Yeah. God, that's a bad joke. Okay, well, I guess I'll start by saying I appreciate as Councillor Roger indicated, a lot of some of the sentiment underpinning and concern underpinning some of the submissions that we did receive and heard from in person. But I guess, and I'm not diminishing that in any way, but I'm really buoyed by all of the positive conversations I've had with people about this for some time, and in particular through the face-to-face engagement we had through the engagement period. I think for me the sentiment can be underpinned or characterised by saying just get on with it. So I take some comfort in that, and that's not to diminish the obvious concerns that some people have raised. But to your point, Andrew, there's nothing kind of new there, and it all speaks to the criticality, I guess, of making sure that the transition board and then the subsequent board of that CCO is very well resourced with really good minds, and that we structure our documents, our supporting documents for them to implement really well. But look, yeah, I'm not going to go on any further. I'm obviously wildly in support of this, and I'll happily move that with pride from the chair. But look, open for any further discussion around the table. Andrew.
Just one thing I'd like to add, I guess. No, I'd like to second too, please. Yeah, so this, like a lot of things, the devil will be in the detail. And I'm very thankful that no one's relying on me to provide that detail. It's not where my skills and strengths lie, but we employ people who are really, really good at doing that stuff. And, I have every confidence that this is going to be very successful. And as I keep saying, this is not meant to be rude at all, but why have a dog and bark yourself?
There's a dog.
Thank you, Andrew. Lou.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just the one consideration, I'm in support, by the way, but the one thing I think that we look at in the future is having a joint venture to join in with Hamilton and with Waikato, because it would give us the ability to cooperate and work collectively with each other, because ultimately I believe that we will look at expansion into that. We will become one CCO over time. But I think by having a joint venture, it gives us the ability to be able to correlate with them, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And I think that's got some value to look forward to. Just a thought, and I'll throw it into the pot.
Yeah, that's definitely on our radar, and Steph can probably speak to that in greater detail in terms of what the conversations have been to date. I mean, it's pretty clear in our consultation documents that our preferred option is that this is almost a stepping stone to a larger entity. And certainly, to use Mayor Paula's words, she wants to make sure we're using the same Lego gauging so that if and or when that does happen, it's not a schmozzle. But Steph, are you able to add to that in any greater detail?
Just and I would say I completely agree with what Mayor Susan has said, whether it's formalised through a heads of agreement between the two establishment teams, leading to expectations clearly set by the shareholding councils that the two CCOs work closely together. But even the establishment phase, I know Carl's sitting here, he's, for example, one of the ones meeting with the two transition teams or establishment teams as they form to look for all of those synergies and opportunities, Lou. So I couldn't agree more.
Okay. All right. Claire.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'd just like to make some comments about it because, yeah, I've been involved in, 2 or 3 processes as well. Look, this is different from previous iterations and I'm pretty comfortable, the shape of this one. I did have reservations with previous ones. And I guess one of the big changes is this professional board that we're setting up and also the shareholders forum. It's more complex, but in a way, hopefully there's more safeguards, on the outcomes. And also, I really appreciate the good engagement and commitment that we've had from central government, actually, because some of the other processes, we didn't have that. Yeah, like, the DIA and, just those waters people that were helping us, I've got to acknowledge that, and also the fact that, there were more financial tools and provisions put on the table, which is important to me. I'm not totally happy, which I'll be speaking about at the next item, but, I could see that commitment from central government that they realised that it had to have the structure to make it work. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then hats off to the staff involved. Steph, first to you, because you made sure you had a great, strong team. Yeah, because the analysis work that went into this, as Roger mentioned, but it was huge, incredibly complex and that. So I want to acknowledge Sharon and Carl because it's been fantastic to have people, like that to help us to reach our decision. Yeah, I don't think we could have done it in the same way without them. Yeah, and just want to acknowledge that this is the start of the process. It's not make the decision, done and dusted. It's all on. No, and it'll be learning as we go. But I'm really encouraged by what I've seen, the commitment and the cooperation that is, from the other councils as well. Yeah. So yeah, obviously, we can't guarantee that there won't be some bumpy bits. Yeah. I've asked for good reporting so that we can see how we're going. So I think, that gives us, some assurance. And as everyone said, we're going to be checking as we go and being flexible to make it work. Yeah. So for all those reasons, I'm happy to support the proposal.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. Look, I agree with your sentiments in respect of certainly our chief executive's role in this and making sure we have excellent information and analysis. And I can speak to that in the knowledge that not all councils have been fortunate to be in that position. And regrettably, again, over the last couple of days at conference, able to sort of share homework, if you like, with others or compare homework with other councils and other mayors and to find that many of them, despite their best efforts, couldn't get these proposed collaborative relationships across the line. And regrettably, I think every time you will probably go back to the root answer being that they didn't get really comprehensive information and good analysis of their options. And I mean, for those councils, they're about to start on a different journey, I guess, and we'll see how the Minister responds to their water service delivery plans in due course. But we have been very well served, exceptionally well served, both from our internal staff and consultant work that has been brought in. I've not seen any other or witnessed any other councils have better analysis presented to them. So yes, agree with you, totally agree with you. Right, Rod, sorry, Philip, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a really long, exhausting process, and particularly for our community as well. I mean, it all started from Havelock North, with Labor coming up with their proposals and propaganda, sort of advertising on TV, just indicating every water system was broken, to come into this reform from our current government. But time, and I think this is the best outcome. This water reform rather than the previous government, but that's just my view. And time will tell, you know, we've got to, through service delivery and things like that, we've got to ensure that the standard doesn't drop for our community, because we have got a good system here, and our community have experienced that as well. So monitoring that is going to be critical, and for us to get feedback on that. And then also, what also is going to be beneficial, or it's going to be, you know, really critical, is getting the right CCO and iwi representation, so the right people around the table and things like that, making decisions on behalf of the community, the larger community too. But it's great to see the councils working together and providing this service. So yeah, so it's been a long process, and we just got to keep an eye on the service delivery and things like that, the affordability for our ratepayers and everything too, like we do with everything else. I mean, the rates hasn't been the best example of that recently, but yeah, this is good. It's a good outcome.
Thanks, Philip. Anybody else wish to speak to this before we turn our mind to the recommendations? No. Bruce.
Just on financial considerations, the government have been picking up the costs up till date. At what stage do they stop funding it? Is it when the body's all set up and running? Is it that the case?
Sharon can answer.
So to date, we've been funding this project by the transition funding that we got when we had NGDB. We hadn't used all of that money, and we've had better off funding that we've transferred into this as well to fund it. Any costs associated with the establishment moving forward, they will transfer it as a loan to the CCO.
Ooh, Mike.
Finish with a quote from Winston Churchill.
Here we go.
So now this is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. 3 times round, Andrew.
I'm very appreciative of that, Mike. I just think we all sort of consider that in civil defence, we already work in a combined situation. We are already working with Otaronga and Waitomo in Western Waikato. So sitting as a chair, and I don't want to push that too far, but sitting there, you actually have a coordination with Taupo and everybody else. We're already working with that field. And I believe that we can continue to do that well. You know, as I say, I think this is critical. This is possibly not as big as we want it to be, as great as we want it to be, but it's the best option we've got now. So let's move forward with it.
Yeah, look, we have a lot of examples of really great regional collaboration, and you're right. Civil Defence Emergency Management's one, our airport shareholdings another, other shared service arrangements that we do have with our neighbouring councils. So yeah, this is not quite the end, or even the middle, to be fair. And I can't quite beat Winston Churchill, but in the immortal words of the Commodores, once, twice, 3 times a lady. There you go, lots of 3s. Look, all joking aside, does anybody else wish to share their thinking with us, or ask Sharon, Carl or EL for some clarity on anything with respect to this paper? Philip's got a joke.
No, well, not really. And I just want to acknowledge Andrew, actually, because he's been the one in favour of this all the time. You've moved this motion, but it's appropriate that he's seconding. And so of everyone that's sitting around here, you're the only one, I think.
I've been considered.
Yeah. It's changed a lot, but yeah, I think it's appropriate.
He's the OG water reformer. Okay, cool.
I want to swap the move in the second round.
No, so I've moved, obviously, the recommendations appearing on page 520 A through to G, obviously G being the critical one, approving the Waikato Water's done well as Council's proposed model for delivering water services. for inclusion in Council's Water Service Delivery Plan, which is the next item. And Andrew has, the original gangster of water reform, has seconded it. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Great stuff. Steph, did you want to say a few words?
I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And it does feel like a bit of the day of the Oscars, doesn't it? Because these are two big milestone days. Sorry, Andrew. Or a funeral, yeah. No, I'd like to say it's a rebirth and a new birth and a celebration. But the two big decisions today that we've made are entirely linked. So we find ourselves in a very difficult position in the water space, and we know that we've left waters in our LTP so that our community could see the impact of water's infrastructure investment that's required, and the renewals, the maintenance, etc., what that would look like. And so the two decisions today go hand in hand, and I want to thank you all as elected members for your governance and your decision making today and over the year, nearly the year I've been here, but for the period, a long period prior to that. So I want to acknowledge you all. You are leading the way in New Zealand as councils, as a council in this space, and I don't want you to underestimate that or not recognise that. So I want to celebrate you all. Mayor Susan, for your leadership. Andrew, once, twice, three times a lady. You will be very pleased about a step down in October at the election, know that this decision has been made, and so I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge our team. So Dawn is not here today, Gary Dyett's obviously not here today, but there are still a significant number of the team who are here and our teams that are listening online. Our staff are the professionals who deliver this every day, day in, day out. And I see Carl Pavlovich in the back there, but I want to acknowledge Dawn, now EL, Sharon, Carl, and Kevin, who's now come on as our transition director, but all of the people in behind them, they were anticipating today with great anxiety, actually, having been around this circle many times before. And I know, Sharon, we've talked about it, having watched this space from prior to 2014. Minister of Local Government, Anne Tolley, wrote to the chairman of LGNZ, David Cull, at the time in 1999, and said something needs to be done about waters, and LGNZ needed to do something pronto. Here we are on the 18th of July in 2025. So if anybody said we made rash, hasty decisions, I'd encourage them to look at a calendar. But I really do want to acknowledge everybody. I want to acknowledge Marlon Bridge and Jaron from DIA and Vanessa Blakelock from DIA, and I'd like that on the record because they have been hugely supportive and instrumental in our ability to get here today. Our Waikato, our fellow Waikato Council mayors and chief executives who are working exceptionally well together, and it feels like a very special time in local government. I want to acknowledge them, and I want to acknowledge Vaughan Payne and his establishment and transition teams, because they are working tirelessly in the background with 7 councils, which is not to be underestimated. So I'd like to acknowledge them today too, and know that they're all waiting to hear the outcome of today. I think this is a really exciting time for the Waikato, but for local government to step up and innovate and look for the change we need to deliver to our communities. I'm looking back to Philip's point that in 2016 in the Havelock North case, they think 4 people definitely died. They think it might have been 6 or 8. 6,000 people were affected, and the economic cost of that was $21 million. That's the economic cost, not the social cost. So we need to do something. We need to ensure we can deliver this infrastructure for our communities now and into the future. And we need to do that. We are doing that, I believe, with the best model we've got at this time, to your point too, Andrew. So incredibly proud to be part of this. And salute you all for a very, very thorough process. So thank you all for this decision today and all of the work that's gone into it. Cheers.
Yeah, to your point, people will be watching on my email. I'm already getting a bunch of messages in from all the other mayors saying, fantastic, great stuff, well done. So yeah, this isn't just a decision for us. Great. Okay, that being the case, let's have a short break for afternoon tea.
we've got.
And then we'll come back for the water services delivery plan. That's what I have in my calendar here. Is that what?
Do you want to break through or do you want to?
Have I not voted? We have. Have I not put it?
Yeah, so we've done that, but we could just.
I'm beginning to doubt myself.
We've done that. We could just get into the adoption of the water services delivery plan.
Yeah, we don't need to stop for a.
It's only 1:30.
Good, I'm just following instructions. It's on my plan here.
Yep. We could just keep going.
Okay, so let's crack in then to the next item, which is the adoption of our water services delivery plan. Same people. Surprise, surprise, floor is yours.
The next report is for the adoption of our water services delivery plan. So this document has been drafted in conjunction with Waikato Water Done Well and was dependent on the decision that's just been made. So we've worked closely with the team at Waikato Water Done Well. You'll see the items in blue throughout the document is text from them, and that will be consistent throughout the councils within Waikato Water Done Well, so that each document's consistent. We're looking to submit the plans together to DIA as a bundle, and that bundle will be sent by Waikato Water Done Well along with a covering letter. The plans meeting the requirements of the legislation, so we're confident with that. We sent the draft to DIA last week for their review and feedback. They came back with some minor things and asked us to update. It's really just a few words to add a bit more context around some of the tables and that, nothing substantial. Some of those have been done in the document that you see today. We updated it. A couple we just went back to DIA to query really around what they were saying wasn't that clear. So we've just gone back and asked the question, but we don't see those as material items that are going to impact this document. They'll just be minor word changes or additional paragraph added. So yeah, I'll probably just take the report as read. We've workshopped this early in July and just take any comments in regards to the delivery plan and the content.
Cheers, Sharon. Yeah, great summary of where we're at in respect of this. Open the floor for questions. I said, yep, Claire is right on in there.
Well, this is the question I was going to ask earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where you go.
Yeah, I think you might have answered most of it. Yeah, I was just going to pick up on the fact that in the report it did say that feedback had been received from DIA, just minor things, and they hadn't all been incorporated. So I just wanted to understand what particular things they were, but it sounded like it was just more context around the some tables.
So just the two things that we haven't incorporated, there was, they'd asked us to add more around the maintenance operation cost to give a breakdown of that.
Oh, okay.
Now that wasn't set out in their template as a, that you need to do it sort of thing. So, and it hasn't, they've actually approved Selwyn District Council's water services delivery plan. So we went back and looked at theirs. It hasn't been included in their plan. So yeah, so we have just gone back to them going, is this really needed, or is it just a nice to have sort of thing, I suppose? And the other one was just they'd ask us to put some more content around some financial figures, but it was unclear the dates and the years that they were referring to. So
yeah, just on those the dates and the years, because I noticed in the I think it's the targets or the measures, the base year was 23, 24. Yeah, and then from then on, it went 25, 26, 26, 27. So there was missing 24, 25. So I presumed it was a timing thing that when you started doing this draft, that base year 23, 24 was the one you had all the information on. Yeah, but it looked a bit strange because there's nothing in it for 24, 25. Yeah.
Just in response to that, so the plan we had to include what the actuals were for 23, 324, and that was from our annual report last year that was approved. And then going forward, we've put in the measures that are in the current LTP that's just been adopted today. The 24-25 one, the work's still being done on those measures and will be reported to you as part of the annual report.
Thanks. And I'd just like to make a comment, if that's all right. Yeah, like I'm really, well, Sharon, you've been working on this like a Trojan. So yeah, well done to get it across the line. Yeah. But I just picked up that, in fact, the new water CCO has got financial tools that councils do not have. And so I'm not particularly happy about that. I feel it's a double standard. Okay, so I've been sort of banging the table that councils need to have fit for purpose tools. Central government's the one that can give it to us. Here they are with their proposal, you know, for local water done well, we're going to make sure it succeeds. So CCOs are allowed to include 75% of development contribution revenue as part of the revenue calculation. Okay. Councils are denied that. Absolutely. We can't count even $1. Okay. And that means that our debt to revenue ratio limits, even with 3.5, are just, thrown to the winds. Yeah. And we've run out of headroom because of it. So headroom. Yeah. And we can't finance new community projects. Yeah. Because, the lid's on. Yeah. So I just think it's a double standard. I'm calling out to central government, hey, it's okay to do it for a CCO, but not for council. Come on, we're in the same business. And I think that we should be able to have fit for purpose tools.
I don't know if there's enough time in the day for us to sort of talk about that, but yes, you're not on your own and noticing the double standard there. Yes, I agree. Any other questions or comments to be made?
Thank you, Susan. Well done, Sharon, and you know, your people you've got working on this. And you know, looking through this, we are going to get some value out of this. Local water's done well will benefit from the work you've done here, which is you know, pleasing because it's a whole bunch of work, and if it was just done to satisfy a government department and have no value, it would have been pretty disappointing. So no, there is going to be value in it. So well done. And yeah.
Thank you. Lou.
Just a little question here of the issues that we've been reading here. Water services preliminary arrangement, you sent that away to DIA, all right, and I noticed there was some minor tweaks, and I noticed that they haven't all complied at the moment. Is there any hold up with those, or is that just a timing fragment or something?
So they just sent back a list of feedback and said that it would be good if we could incorporate just really more wording around some of the tables, financial tables. One was around the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant, so we've put some more words that you'll see in the document at the back there. So yeah, just really additional information to make it easier, not only for them when they assess it, but also for readers going forward on what they're seeing. And a couple of items that we haven't had, but I went back to them to query. I'm still awaiting feedback, but I'm not expecting any change, substantial change.
The only reason I asked the question was simply to just, is there any fishhooks that we've got to address at all?
That was the comment I was going to make. So I guess the general comment back from DIA right at the front of the email was it meets all of our expected requirements. We've just got a couple of clarification questions. So on the face of it, there's nothing that they asked for or that we're not yet to clarify. Certainly the things that are left to clarify are very, very minor and won't stop the plan being approved.
Thank you.
Gail, did you want to add to that?
So just further to that, in terms of the DIA feedback, it came just a 3 days ago. And so it is actually just taken that time for the report to come in. And so we're working through those as well.
I was aware of that. That's why I said a timing issue.
Yeah, it was. So the team have done amazingly well to get it into the document.
Good stuff. Excellent. Now, I believe before we need to look at our tune our mind to the recommendations, there are slight amendments. Is that right? And it's to go on the screen. So let's just turn our head to that screen. Okay. Obviously, removal paragraph B of the noting that we were to determine today whether to approve or not approve, obviously change the sense in respect of that. So it just notes that following public consultation, we've approved Waikato Water done well, which makes sense of that paragraph now. And then obviously the deletion of paragraph C, which had reference to the being subject to that decision making, and then subsequent paragraph numbering changes, which makes abundant sense. So just reflecting the decision made earlier this morning. So that is the recommendation that sits before us. I will move that from the chair, and I will be seeking a seconder before I put the motion. Bruce will second that. Just checking there's no further discussion in respect of this matter. Okay, I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Wonderful stuff.
Well done, Sharon.
Well done. Yeah, thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, team. Once again, a huge amount of work, lots of hours, not an easy landscape to work within, and multiple moving parts, obviously, and obviously still even live as we speak. But look, thank you from us all. So, people, that brings us to the end of a really important meeting, and one I think that I guess I feel really privileged to have had a part of, because I think it's really put a stake in the ground in terms of the way we as governors are looking to the future and trying to consider the landscape around us with a more strategic context. There's a real temptation to think short term, and it's kind of safe and easy to, and I'm glad that to be surrounded by fellow elected members who are prepared to look and be brave and make those decisions for the future. So thank you all, and I shall invite Dale Marie to close us with a karakia, if you would, Dale Marie.
Tēnā tātou, well done everybody. I won't labour us. Kua mutu o mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, manakitia mai, mātou katoa, o mātou hua, o mātou whānau. Ai o ki te aorangi, hui e taiki e, handing over to Marcus.
Our work is finished for now. Here towards us all, our friends, our whānau, peace of the world, united and affirmed. And I'd just like to say, Susan, on behalf of the councillors, thank you for leading us through this and being with me through the change, because it has been a massive change for us. And I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Waipā looks like in the future.
Kia ora, Marcus. Thank you very much. So that concludes our meeting, and we look forward to seeing you all into the future.